You are more qualified than you realize. I tell you this because sometimes you don't feel good enough for the team, for the college, for the job, for the promotion. Think back to the weight of that feeling. I've worked with thousands of young professionals and I've seen it firsthand. When you feel unqualified, it holds you back. So today, I'm going to prepare you with my 3 actions for a qualified mindset. But first things first, turn to the person next to you and let's say it together. You are more qualified than you realize. Yeah. Doesn't that feel good? I needed to hear that, especially when I was in college and I wanted to be a magazine editor. So I applied to 3 magazine internships. I was swiftly rejected from all 3. Clearly, the magazine professionals were telling me that I was not qualified. So I threw in some supporting evidence. I wasn't even a journalism major. How dare I apply for that internship? And then I amplified it. I'm 21 and I'm a total failure already. Have you been here before? Raise your hand if you've ever felt unqualified. If you're in high school, you may have felt like this during volleyball tryouts. And it happens again in college when you tried to make it into the business school. And again, it happens in your career from that first job rejection to even after you've been climbing that corporate ladder. In your 30s and 40s, there will still be the day that no matter how many certifications you have to your name, you may still feel unfit to lead a team or go after that vice president role. It's a vicious cycle. As we grow up, we gain all these experiences, yet we're constantly looking ahead to what's next, and we don't feel ready for it. And this happens to me all the time in my business, as I try to come up with new initiatives and projects like the podcast I wanted to create and the book I wanted to write. As I look ahead to these new projects and the uncertainty of it all, I still hear, even with over a decade of experience under my belt, I still hear this little voice that says, "Am I qualified to do this?" Now, I promise you that this is not a doomsday message. You may be thinking, Amanda, why are you telling me that I'm going to constantly face rejection and feel unqualified? Okay, yes, I'm telling you that. But there's a silver lining. While you can't control the rejection, you can control feeling qualified. In fact, it's science. According to psychology professors, when you face rejection, your brain perceives it the same as physical pain, and it eats away at your self-esteem. As the journalist that I am, I'm not just going to cite you this study. I actually spoke to the professors who wrote the study, Ethan Cross from Michigan and Tor D. Wagner from Dartmouth, and they reconfirmed that rejection, whether romantic or not, hurts. But the impact of that rejection comes down to what it means to you. You have control over the story you're telling yourself. So it's time to flip the script. Otherwise, your brain is going to prove your rejection story right. You didn't get that job because you're not good enough. Instead, let's try, you didn't get that job, and it's not personal. Because what does it mean to be qualified anyway? Don't unqualified people get the job all the time? According to a study by Hewlett-Packard, women feel they need to meet 100% of job criteria before even applying. Every bullet point on that job. And because of this, LinkedIn's data supports this stat. Women are applying to 20% fewer jobs than men. So we each interpret qualified differently. I know when I didn't get those internships, I definitely didn't feel qualified. But I didn't let it hold me back. In fact, the very next year, I went on to launch College Magazine. I had this idea to create a magazine that would help students be successful. And I flyered around my campus, and kids showed up to write for it. And then I sold ads to the local restaurants. And I raised enough money to print the first 5,000 copies at my alma mater, the University of Maryland. I then hustled like crazy, even hand distributing thousands of magazines, and I grew the publication to 14 campuses on the East Coast. Today, I'm the CEO and publisher of collegemagazine.com, and we reach millions of readers nationwide. The best part is that I get to work with aspiring journalists and help them achieve their dream jobs. And today, they're in careers at Vox, Redbook, Us Weekly, National Geographic, and more. What if I had waited for someone to tell me that I was qualified? So will you let others determine if you're qualified? Or will it be up to you? Picture this. It's up to you. You possess what it takes to feel qualified and go after what it is that you want. And with my 3 actions for a qualified mindset, you'll be prepared for any rejection that comes your way. The first action you can take is to level up your story. The story that students come to me with when they graduate is the greatest elevator pitch for why they're not qualified. And that was Dan. Dan was a graduate from Penn State and a former student editor-in-chief at College Magazine. And after graduating, Dan was rejected from 20 jobs, and his confidence had plummeted. He kept getting the interview, but he wasn't getting the offer. So I offered to help him with his interview skills. I said, Dan, tell me what you did at College Magazine. And Dan said, well, I oversaw a team of writers and editors, and I determined what got published on the website. I was shocked. I said, Dan, did you seriously just downplay your entire year at College Magazine into one very dull sentence? Clearly, Dan was bored with his own story. And maybe you can relate. A day in your life isn't as interesting to you, but it is to someone else who's never lived a day in your life. I said, Dan, you recruited and mentored and led our writers and editors. They looked up to you. You weren't afraid to give honest feedback. You helped run team meetings and you taught social media tactics. You even had an article that went viral, reaching over 20,000 shares. And Dan laughed. He agreed. He needed to level up his story. On his next interview with a publication called The Street, Dan got the job. You can level up your story too. I know it's not easy to think about all the ways in which you're crushing it, but I bet if I asked you to list all the ways in which your best friend is crushing it, I think you could. So lean on your BFF. Lean on those who know you best, and ask them to help you identify your strengths. Not just 1, not just 2, try 20. And then connect those strengths to a story where you've demonstrated them. And once you've identified these stories and you've written it down, like that time that you designed and ordered the t-shirts for your school's dance-a-thon, you'll start to see that you are a creative leader. You'll start to see how your unique experiences make you even more qualified for what it is that you want to go after. The next action that you can take is to make courageous connections. Another graduate of mine, Anna, also faced some rejection after graduation and ultimately settled for a position that she didn't enjoy. She felt like she couldn't flex her creativity, which was a shame because Anna was one of my most creative writers. She said she felt really lost about her next steps, and maybe you felt that too. Like, should she apply for another job? Should she go back to school? And have you ever felt like you have all these options, but you're really not quite sure how to get started? So I asked her, I said, Anna, have you thought about reaching out to anyone in the media industry and asking them how they got to where they are today? And she paused. And she said she felt silly, that she hadn't even thought to do that. Look, Anna's not alone. Most of us set out to chase our dreams all by ourselves. I get it. Solo travel is where it's at. But the qualified journey is not a solo journey. I encouraged Anna to reach out to one person every day, and she did. In fact, she texted me, and you can do this too. Well, don't text me, but I encourage you to find an accountability partner. Anna reached out to a copywriter at Wayfair, an editor at The Atlantic, a content manager, a grant writer, and more. And she was so surprised how everyone was willing to give her more than 15 minutes of their time. Guys, people love to talk about themselves. And think about it. If someone looked up to you and wanted your advice, wouldn't you be more than willing to give it? She said that she gained a lot of clarity on her career journey. In fact, she said, "I felt more inspired and less lonely." You too can make these courageous connections. And I want to encourage you to reach out to one person every day for the next month and keep going. Share your leveled up story from Action 1 with these connections, and they'll start to see themselves in your story, and they'll want to help you succeed. Today, Anna is flexing her passion for creative writing in her new job at HubSpot that she loves. The next action that you can take is to build your own qualified. Remember the time I was rejected from those 3 internships? I certainly haven't forgotten. I decided to build my own qualified. First, I made a courageous connection. I reached out to the editorial assistant at Washingtonian magazine and asked her for 15 minutes of her time, and she said yes. Now, keep in mind, this was the publication that rejected me. So a little part of me was thinking, maybe she'll offer me the internship right there on the spot. That's not what happened. But what did happen was I learned that she started her career journey by writing for her on-campus magazine. I hadn't even thought to do that. My campus magazine, which was called Unwind, didn't have an application process. I walked into the next meeting, and before I knew it, I was assigned a Ben Folds concert review. Shame on. And I wrote this article, and before I knew it, I was published. I could see my name in print, and I felt on top of the world. It was amazing. I didn't have to wait for permission. And I ended up using that article to apply to another internship at Washington Spaces magazine. And I got that job. And that was really what solidified my passion for the magazine industry. You can build your own qualified. You don't have to wait for permission. You can volunteer. You can intern. You can join that club. You can build that website today. You can side hustle. I bet if you went on meetup.com, you would find an organization that aligns with your passions and will help you achieve your goals. We all know that achieving our goals is iterative. It happens over time. The qualified journey isn't a vicious cycle. It's like a stepladder. It builds. Think back to where you were 5 years ago. Think about all of the new experiences that you've had, all the new knowledge that you've gained, all the projects you've worked on, and how far you've come. You've grown before, so you can grow again. Now that you've leveled up your story, and you'll be making courageous connections every day, and you're building your own qualified, you are more than prepared to face any rejection that comes your way. After this talk, pass it on. Think about the time that someone told you that you were qualified, that you could do it, and how that made you feel, and how that helped you move forward. Think about how you could do that for someone else. I know I needed to hear it, and I think you did too. Picture this, a world where we all feel qualified to go after what we want. And the ripple effect that when we do what we love, we make a greater impact in the world. Thank you.